People are already struggling. I'm speaking with them on a daily basis. A lot of these different acts that have come through over the last 100, 120 years have been slowly stepping away, inching away our freedom. That we're inching towards a totalitarian regime of total control. And I believe it's moving towards a one world government. And the mechanism of control in our current world is financial. So we have what I believe will be hyperinflation coming, that you can up credit to discharge debts and essentially step into financial freedom and really understand the matrix, the financial matrix that's used, I believe, to control us, to create freedom.
This episode of the Sacred Sons podcast is brought to you by ButcherBox. ButcherBox is a monthly subscription service that delivers high-quality meats right to your doorstep. At Sacred Sons, we understand the importance of fueling our bodies with real organic food, and that nourishment is essential for an embodied life. ButcherBox makes it easy. Their beef is 100% grass-fed and grass-finished, their chicken is free-range and organic, and their pork is heritage breed and raised with care. Not only is ButcherBox's meat of the highest quality, but they also prioritize sustainable and ethical farming practices. Their commitment to responsible sourcing means you can feel good about the meat that you're putting on your plate. I know that those of us that have families, having these quality foods is of the utmost importance. And it's incredibly convenient. Their monthly subscription model means you always have a supply of high quality meat on hand without having to worry about making trips to the grocery store. Our family has been ordering from ButcherBox for years. A couple of our favorites are the ribeye, put those bad boys on the grill, and the baby back ribs, slow cooked in the oven for 4 hours. It's a little bit of barbecue sauce, hits the spot. And as a special offer right now, you can get free bone-in chicken thighs with your order and $20 off your first box. Nourish your body and mind with high-quality meats delivered to your doorstep from ButcherBox. Visit butcherbox.com to learn more and take advantage of these limited-time special offers. Much love, fam. Grand Rising Sacred Sons, Adam Jackson here with another episode of the Sacred Sons podcast. Brothers and sisters, today we're going to be talking about your freedom. And not just your freedom as a human being on this earth that you experience, but what does freedom look like as we are all a part of an economic system that wants to keep us enslaved? I know for myself and all the men I work with, the financials can be sometimes the most vulnerable of vulnerables. You know, for all of the trauma, the shadows, the behaviors, the things that we carry, for a lot of men, talking about money is just the hardest thing to do. And so that is what we are going to do today with today's guest, Jesse Simpson. Jesse and I go back. Jesse, when did we get together? That was EMX in Tennessee.
Yep.
How long ago was that?
Over 2 years now.
Over 2 years, Jesse's been rocking with Sacred Sons. And what's your experience been just in our community alongside of us doing this work?
Sacred Sons has touched me personally through a lot of different transitions in my life. It's helped me step up into a greater sense of leadership, embodiment. It's connected me to brothers for the first time since I was in the Marine Corps over 12 years ago. I've overcome a lot of things from my personal childhood, from my time in service in the Marines, and am reconnected to what it means to be a man as I move forward in this transition of being a new father. So I'm eternally grateful for what you've put together as Sacred Sons. It's an honor to be here.
Thank you. And with that, our guest today, he's a Marine Corps combat vet. He's a former firefighter. He's a father and husband, and he is the chief freedom architect at Abundance Codes, where he helps fathers build wealth for themselves and their families. Please welcome Jesse Simpson. My guy. Good to be here with you, bro.
Great to be here with you, Adam.
You know, I do remember that time that we spent in Tennessee, and you were actually, you were there with a few other veterans, kind of at the inception where we talked about having a VMX bringing this work specifically for veterans. And then this year, we actually had our first veterans masculine experience. What was that like for you?
It was powerful. It was powerful to see all the vets coming back together. After my time away, I've disconnected from the military quite a bit. I had to do that. But now coming back to be around other veterans, I know that's where I belong. And I feel a lot of veterans feel the same way. And navigating the transition is really difficult. It was for me, and I know for a lot of my brothers and sisters. But to see Sacred Sons bringing back the veterans to do the deep work like we were able to do was really inspiring and really impactful.
Yeah. I mean, it's how do we take care of those who are actually out there fighting for our freedom? I feel like if we're talking about being of service, this is the deepest sense of service we can bring is for those men and women. And we're in a time of war right now. And we have Sacred Sons brothers who are on both sides of it, on all sides of it. Recently, I was in Scotland with a brother from Ukraine who has kind of just escaped potential war. We have our brother Tamir, who's literally right now over with the IDF fighting this war. And we have Palestinian brothers. We have men on all sides of this. And it's really interesting to see the culture of Sacred Sons even in a time of war. You know? Yeah. What do you have to say about, the current state of things as someone who's seen combat and, as we're talking about freedom, but as someone who's seen combat, what is it like for you to see this sense that we're being involved in more of these world conflicts?
It's a great question. It's something that I've thought a lot about recently. And the way I've navigated my life after separating from the Marines is really just trying to maintain a higher perspective on what's going on here. And I am really disheartened and sad to see these similar cycles of destruction, of war being played out. And I have my beliefs about these sort of attacks that are happening, and it's challenging to navigate. And what I see and what you were hitting on right there, Adam, with the brothers on both sides is that we are able to maintain a higher perspective. And Sacred Sons and all the people, all the groups, all the communities out there doing the work like this to rise above that eye for an eye sort of mentality that's been going on throughout human history is, I believe, the future. So as challenging as now, I feel hopeful about what we have.
Wow. Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. And I think the higher level perspective for conscious people is really like to look inward, right? There's war happening outside of us. And for some of us, we're so far away from it, like culturally we don't resonate, but it is our obligation to look inside. Where is that war coming for us? Where are our shadows? Where is our behavior having an impact on others, right? So we do that, and it's not in an attempt to bypass what's happening in the world for real. I put out some comments lately that got a lot of pushback. I'm calling for an end to this. Just like other people are calling for ceasefire. It kills me. It really breaks my heart to see innocent children dying for what? For what? For religion, for money, for oil, for beliefs, for land. And so, I appreciate that higher perspective, and it's going to be a long game. I have no disillusions that Sacred Sons is here to save the world in any way. However, if we can change the hearts of men one by one over time in 1,000 years, can we see that future? I say yes. What do you say?
I say yes.
Yeah, man. And you're a father to a new daughter. She's about 6 months, 8 months?
8 months old as of last week.
So she's 8 months old and you're an 8-month-old father. How's that life transition been treating you?
Oh, man, it's been really special. And my life's been in a really good flow the last few years. There's been some ups and downs, but the timing of my daughter coming through, my wife's incredible. She's an incredible mother. And really just how we transition into parenthood it felt fully supported.
Yeah.
And it's been this really nice flow up until 8 months now. My daughter's healthy. Well, she sleeps 12, 14 hours a night. She smiles when she sees me. She's figuring out the world. And it's really beautiful to watch her grow over these past few months.
Yeah. And I imagine, in the line of work that you're doing now with these financial codes, it brings a new level of awareness, to what it means to hold a family and to be a provider. You know what I mean? So let's do this. I kind of checked in a little bit about the current state of things, but let's do a financial check-in. So I'm going to invite us to take a deep breath for ourselves, and brothers and sisters listening along, get your financial check-in ready. We're going in. Deep breath in. Jesse, on this beautiful day, how are your finances?
Beautiful. Yeah, my finances are in a constant state of evolution. And it's clear on where they're headed. And what I've realized in doing a lot of this deep work with finances specifically is this is the shadow work.
Yeah.
Our current debt load, our current credit score, these are all numerical representations of our financial shadow. And so my financial shadow is getting wiped clean, and it's stepping into a greater sense of abundance. And so my investments are solid. I'm working on generating cash flow, and I'm really excited about the opportunity to help other people do that exact same thing.
Beautiful. Adam checking in with finances. I bought a house in this year of 2023. They said it couldn't be done. They said it shouldn't be done. And I did it anyways. I unloaded a 401k and put a down payment on a house in Southern California because this is my way of providing. We're having a baby girl coming into this world in December. And, there's all the reasons. Rents are high, inflation's setting in, and I want to know where my children are going to be raised for the next 10 years. I want them to know that, this is our home, and it's my responsibility to bring that. So I'm taking on quite literally the largest amount of debt that I have in my entire life. And it feels great. It feels great. I feel resourced because Sacred Sons is doing well. Shout out to all of the brothers who joined us at convergences, both in Scotland, LA. Shout out to all the men who are joining us in leadership trainings. On the reel, we talk about this is business and brotherhood, and business is doing well. Thank you to everyone who's contributing to it. And I want you guys to know it's coming to my family. It's coming to Kale's family and Jason's family and the leaders who we provide reciprocity with. It's not just me. It's bigger than me. So putting that out as a prayer to continue the blessings of abundance. And so with that, I'll send it back to you. What's that first step? What's that first step for a man who's out there like, fuck, I'm not happy with where I'm at and I don't know what to do? What's the abundance code step one?
That's a beautiful question as well. And I think you said the answer in the question right there is just having that awareness that something is off. Like the reality is, the current way the finances are headed in our economy is going to deeply impact pretty much everybody. And having that awareness, the curiosity of what comes next, I think is point number one.
Yeah. And so, let's kind of get to know you a little bit in your journey, just in life. What did you see out there? Because you're a Marine Corps veteran. You've worked as a firefighter, and then you caught this bug. I know that you flew to Costa Rica to run retreats for a chapter of your life. What's been your financial story so we can, like I'm saying, get to know you a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So Marines, fire service, that was like my childhood dream. And, I made that happen, and I started a nonprofit. So I always kind of grew up with this belief that money was bad and rich people are bad and these sort of things. Grew up in a really poor family. So that was my underpinning. And I thought I had to sacrifice myself in order to be a good person. That's what I saw my mom do. But moving forward on my journey as a firefighter, we make decent pay. That people are attracted to it because of the pension and the benefits and these sort of things. And the job nearly right away, although it was a stable paycheck and this sort of illusion of security in the pension was present, I really started to confront a lot of my shadow on the job, separate from the financial world, and really got opened up to the shadow of the country and how people are struggling on a day-to-day basis through all kinds of different problems. And so that was my experience in the fire department. The suicides, overdoses, drunk addicts, these sort of things, the abuse, the loss of life was really started to touch me. And at one point, I was a firefighter of the year in the state of Arizona. And I was, the pinnacle of the profession, my childhood dream job, running this nonprofit that I thought was my life purpose. And it was only a month later when I really started to hit a wall, and all the things I had been suppressing caught up with me. I lost my brother was getting very sick at this point. He ended up passing away a couple of years later. A lot of personal things were happening in my family that really challenged me. I was really disappointed with the way the fire department is essentially the first responders to what are mostly medical calls, which most of those are mental health in nature. And I was struggling with my own mental health at that point. I had lost my best friend from the Marines to a heroin overdose. I'm going on heroin overdoses. And I really started to question my existence. I got this idea, looking forward to retirement, the sort of financial security that's supposed to provide 25 years in the future.
Right.
And I really got sick of living to that desired imaginary state, and went through a really tough time in 2017, but eventually decided that it was time for me to leave. And so against all financial advisors, wishes, I took out my firefighter pension and took a one-way flight to Costa Rica. No real plans of ever coming home. I ended up spending 18 months backpacking around the world, hosted retreats in Colombia for a while. And it was funny because when I took that leap of faith, I had no idea where I was going to land. Literally just knew Costa Rica was the first step. We went to Peru, to Colombia. We bounced around. But every time after I had that, I maintained commitment and had the courage to make the leap. I was supported financially. Things just came through.
Yeah.
And yet still it wasn't sustainable. And I started multiple businesses, the retreats. I was a coach. I was doing all these different things online, but I was trying to start a business or trying to pay for my everyday expenses with a business that wasn't yet making money. So I was racking up personal credit card debt, and eventually hit a wall. And at that point is when I met Brother Taylor.
What was the wall? What was the sense of the wall you hit?
The wall was, I want to have a family with my wife, and I'm not providing as a father, as a husband.
Yeah.
I'm collecting debt, and I have no income coming in that's sustainable, that would allow me to feel comfortable bringing a daughter into this world where I know I can provide for her.
Yeah. You're firefighter of the year. I also know that you were giving talks, beyond just the firefighting. You were a scene in the community, is what I kind of recall. And you left on the leap of faith. I'm sure it was expansive. You found yourself, this is like your soul's quest and journey, but then you still are coming back to this source of scarcity. Yeah. So then what happens next?
Yeah. Well, so I hit the wall, and I realized I was hosting retreats in Colombia. I was on purpose. It was incredible to be doing that. And it's like what I dreamed about while I was traveling, like showing people this authentic experience of Colombia, which was a country that totally changed my life. And I lost money on the retreats. And so a number of things happened, and it just things with Colombia, like different things that made traveling there difficult, and really just life hit me and made me realize like this isn't a sustainable path, and I'm going to need to change course, and I'm probably going to have to do something I don't want to do.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of people that can relate to this in this time, because COVID sent a lot of folks into the gig economy, into the alternative economy, into the online economy. And some of that money has now dried up. And some of that passion also has dried up, you could say. And so there's a lot of people out there hitting their wall right now. Yeah? You think, are you seeing that as true in your experience and the people that you're working with?
Yeah, 100%. I'm speaking with people on a daily basis. So a lot of men, a lot of fathers, for maybe because I'm a new father and I'm connecting with new fathers, but dozens of fathers or soon to be fathers are in the circle. I'm talking with people on a daily basis. And probably half of the conversations I'm having are with fathers or soon to be fathers who are seriously struggling financially, and they don't know how they can get food for their daughters. There's a conversation I had just last week.
It's real.
Yep.
And so you hit your wall. What happens next?
I hit my wall and I got a job. I kind of like I felt like I was selling my soul in a way, and like giving up on my dream. I spent 4 years essentially after the fire service trying to make it, and it didn't happen. So I ended up getting a sales job for a tech company, and got the consistency, got the stable money coming in, got the benefits and these sort of things, and brought my daughter through, and it was a beautiful experience. I met some incredible people, and it was really beautiful, the people I met that I was really surprised by, and the corporate machine, like it was really challenging. Like this time last year, I was like not sure how I was going to push through doing the work that I was doing in the corporate world.
Yeah. And maybe even a similar sense of lack of fulfillment that you were feeling in previous chapters. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right. And so our brother Taylor Carver comes along. I want to shout out Taylor. He's another brother from Sacred Sons. He's largely responsible for helping us, get the album out and some other creative projects. Another Sacred Sons brother I love. When was the first time you and Taylor met?
We actually had met at 2021 Oregon Coast Convergence.
Convergence 6.
Yep, Convergence 6. And we never really were connected after that. But I was doing a lot of deep work about 18 months ago, and COVID really inspired. I was kind of like, just ignoring like what was going on. I wasn't like going deep into what's happening, but started to study about 18 months ago more deeply than really I ever have before. The Constitution, the United States, finances, and that led me to finances. I heard about this idea of the straw man. I started learning about debt and credit and these sort of things. And I was like, and reading a bunch of different books, and I was like, oh, these sound great. Some of them did. Some of them were confusing. I found like they didn't really articulate well what needed to be said. And I left with more questions than answers and a little disappointed. And I left thinking, okay, this sounds cool if it were to work, but I'd never seen anybody doing this actually before. The next day, Instagram, top of the feed, Brother Taylor is holding up a letter from Wells Fargo, having done what I was reading about the day before.
And what was it that he did?
Yeah, it was around debt discharge and showing how you can leverage. That was specifically about debt discharge, and that's all I knew. And we reconnected at Convergence 7, and that's when I really started to learn more and about his life up to that point and what he's doing specifically in the financial world.
Yeah, he's kind of like he's a real sovereign wild man. I've seen him go to court battling credit card companies and all kinds of interesting things.
Yeah.
But when you were doing that research, ultimately, what is it that you learned? Or like, I know there was more questions, but what were your takeaways and how it relates to our freedom? You know, how this financial system actually becomes oppressive.
Yeah. There's a lot comes up to me, and I don't know the timeline. I don't know how it all came out, but I like to start at the beginning of this because like, it's just really clear. Article 1, Section 10 of the United States Constitution states that no state can make anything but gold or silver coin legal tender. All right, we don't have that. We have fiat currency. It's fake paper money. It's monopoly money. So right from the get-go, our financial system that we currently have present day is unconstitutional. Right? So I started to learn about that. And I'm like, well, what does that mean exactly? Why are we allowed to have this system that's unconstitutional when I thought, I was fighting for the Constitution? But that's not been the case. It hasn't been the case for quite a while. And that opens up the door.
I was going to say, since the creation of the Federal Reserve, yeah?
Yeah, exactly. So 1913, the Federal Reserve Act came through and started to create money the way they did. A big one that came, there's a really good book. I always recommend Fruit from a Poisonous Tree by Melvin Stamper. It's excellent. It lays out a perfect timeline of these. And for me, it was very well articulated, and has a lot of US code and case law that's cited in that you can follow along. It's really confronting, but I think it's really important to understand this history.
Yeah.
But either way, so unconstitutional money, the Federal Reserve Act came through. A lot of these different acts that have come through over the last 120 years have been slowly inching away our freedom. There's like there used to be a 6-inch book that had all the US law. Now there's 80,000 pages. It takes up multiple shelves with complex, ambiguous legal language that is contained in the US code. It's incredibly difficult to navigate and really oppressive by its nature of how confusing it is. So we go through all those things, and still they're building upon these things to extract from us.
Yeah. And this is not conspiracy. This is actually just what is happening. And so, like, why do you think it's as confusing as it is? I mean, what is your suspicion, like, after kind of learning the history? What's your takeaway there?
Yeah, well, my takeaway is that we're inching towards a totalitarian regime of total control. And I believe it's moving towards a one world government, and that I think we're not too far away from that. And the mechanism of control in our current world is financial.
Yeah.
So we have what I believe will be hyperinflation coming here. I mean, people are already struggling. I'm speaking with them on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And, we're on a path towards hyperinflation. It's going to be very, very difficult to get by for a lot of people, more so than it is now. I think we've only started seeing the tip of the iceberg.
Wow. Yeah, it's a scary proposition, especially in a time of war too, right?
Yeah.
When you saw what Taylor was doing, what did that spark in you? Like when you saw that there's this guy who has a form of resistance, who's actually willing to do the work to go and fight the system, what lit you up about that?
Yeah, I think it's one thing to talk about ideas, but it's another thing to walk the walk.
Yeah.
And Taylor is someone who walks the walk. He's the embodiment of being disconnected, like in the world, but not of the world, and leveraging the system for his benefit in a way that helps his family. And now he reached back in that moment to help other people. So that really is what brought me in.
Yeah. And so what happened when you guys came together?
Yeah, it was funny because I reached back out to him when I went on paternity leave, and I was like, hey man, I got 2 months. I might as well do something productive during this time. So I reached back out to him to see what sort of support he could need to help other people like me, other fathers like me, impact their families financially.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, hey man, this is perfect because I'm about to be moving to Costa Rica. So that was mid-March. April 1st, he was driving his family down to Costa Rica from here in Arizona, and really just kind of happened super quick over the next couple of weeks. But it became really evident that he's going to be on this journey. He's going to be pretty much unplugged, and I'm going to be taking this on. So we really eventually, I pretty much took over, and he's an excellent consultant and advisor. So we would do a lot of our conversations via WhatsApp message, and eventually got deeper into this. And there's a lot of resistance that comes. Essentially, we were offering a do it with you sort of group course. We have all the things in the Abundance Codes Academy that you can use to clean up credit, to discharge debts, and essentially step into financial freedom and really understand the matrix, the financial matrix that's used, I believe, to control us, to create freedom.
Yeah.
And when I realized that all the resistance was there, it just became this opportunity. I learned about business funding. That was a massive breakthrough. And that's the bread and butter of what Abundance Codes is now today.
Yeah.
And so we just took it and ran with it. Now we offer done for you full service credit repair and a done for you business funding program that allows business owners to start up or scale their business, $100,000 or more in 0% interest funding. And you don't even have to spend much of your own money.
So step one is having the awareness that we are in fact a part of this system that is leveraged against us, right?
Yeah.
It sounds like step two is getting our credit in order. Speak plainly to the brothers and sisters listening. Why is our credit of as much importance? And kind of like, what are the ways to begin to correct or repair one's credit?
Yeah, 100%. Step two is definitely clean up your credit. And it's interesting because I spoke with a lot of different people who have a lot of debt or people who have no credit history whatsoever because they grew up with the belief that credit was bad. But the way I see it, simple as it can be, is if the financial system is control, then credit is freedom. It's allowing us an opportunity to create freedom in our life because we can leverage debt just like the rich dad, poor dad. They talk about leveraging. The main thing, his biggest takeaway is the rich use debt to acquire assets. And so if you have a good credit score, which is the number that they give you based off of your credit history, which determines your credit worthiness as a borrower, which essentially means your score tells you how much money you can get and at what interest rates. So whether you're a business owner or not, cleaning up your credit, especially now, is super important if you want to buy a house, a car, because having a good credit score, let's say 740 or above, will mean you save tens of thousands of dollars over the lifetime of that loan.
In interest, yeah.
In interest, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go even deeper, more specific, I would say.
Yeah.
Whether or not these guys are coming through Abundance Codes, like, what do you recommend going through Experian and get your credit, maybe even have awareness of your credit score? Because I think there's a piece of us, when you said that, like, this is in fact the greatest shadow, I agree, because you'll ever notice, like, in hard times, when the bank account's low, you don't want to look at it. You know that feeling? Like, I don't even want to fucking check it because it's not good. I feel like there's a sense of that with the credit score too. And we know, dealing with emotional, behavioral shadows, and in this realm, the financial shadow, illuminating, shining a light on it, keeping it out in front, knowing what the number is to start with. And then what do we do from there?
Yeah. Open up Experian.com. You can get a free credit report there. Or you go to creditkarma.com, get a free credit report, TransUnion and Equifax there. Either way, just looking at it, an updated version of it will be a great first place to start. And then the main things to look at right then is if you have derogatory remarks. So these are like bankruptcies, foreclosures, charge-offs, collections, these sort of things. If you have any of those, or you have any late payments, you're going to need credit repair. That's what credit repair companies do. I had no idea that I would now be in the credit repair business, but now I've learned that freedom is why I exist, to help people create freedom, and credit, the credit system, is the way to make that a reality. So it makes perfect sense now. But either way, for people listening to this, look at your credit score. If you have derogatory remarks or late payments, you need credit repair.
Yeah. I'm just sensing in you, Jesse, like you're saying, freedom is your purpose in this life, and you've expressed that in very extreme and also unique ways. And I see that, like, yeah, this is like fighting a fire. This is like being in combat in the way that, like, you're coming in to potentially rescue someone from kind of disaster.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I see the tie in there. So what's next? You have credit and you're talking about business lending. So why should brothers and sisters care? They got their credit score repaired. They can buy things at a lower interest rate. How is this actually creating freedom? Let's say more about that.
Yeah, 100%. So you don't stop. I don't believe anybody should stop at the credit repair or at the credit score, having a good credit score. And the opportunity that is here right now is using that old system, the old banking system. It's alchemizing that energy and creating our purpose, creating our vision with that funding. Because as a business owner, you can start or scale a business without spending your own money. And banks have 0% interest introductory offers on credit cards. And through the right strategy and the right relationships, you can get $100K or more and 0% interest funding. So I see it as an opportunity to use that old system to create the new world, to create the new vision, to create the parallel structures we need to ensure freedom and safety for our children and theirs.
Yes. Yes. And if you're going to borrow the money, you got to be willing to do the work, have a vision, have your mission in place. It's not just like, oh, it's free money. You have to make your money work for you at the same time. Yeah. What do you have to say in terms of that? Like for those who are passionate about creating their dream, I understand the benefits to financing it in this way. But what about what it actually takes? What do you see there? What have you seen?
Yeah, what it actually takes. I think it just takes commitment to go all in on yourself, go all in your vision and serve something larger than yourself. One of the prompts that I got this past year from my mentor was not what's your purpose, but what does God need from you? And that really shifted my perspective to brought it out of myself. And I realized people are struggling financially right now. People deserve freedom. We are born free. We should remain free throughout the rest of our life. So I think it takes a commitment to something larger than self and a willingness to step into the arena. And I believe right now we are being forced into stepping into the arena. I know you're doing it, Adam. I'm stepping in, and I'm calling all the brothers to step into their purpose, to their vision for the world. Otherwise, the powers that be are going to create their vision for us.
Yes. We even say it at Sacred Sons, we step in. The other thing we say is keep showing up. I know for Sacred Sons, absolutely creating something bigger than ourselves and bigger than myself. And there's another truth that I like to highlight here, which is no one's coming to save us, and we can't do it alone. It's a both and, right? It's like no one's coming to save us, and we're not going to be able to do it all on our own. And so we need resources like abundance codes to help us get our shit and our credit in order. We need organizations like Sacred Sons to help get us emotionally regulated, to get our shadows out in front, to create a sense of brotherhood and friendship and meaning in one's life again. A lot of these services are for the good of humanity. And so we step in. And I know there's a lot of people who are afraid to step in because they'll lose the insurance, because they'll lose the credibility or the approval from their parents even, right? But if you have a vision and you are absolutely lit up by it to the point where you just don't stop, where it doesn't turn off, those are the ones to follow. The one where you go to bed thinking about it at night, the wheels are turning, and when you wake up, you're excited to get to work. Those are the ones worth investing in. And now you have the codes to do it and to actually generate the abundance to make it a reality.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And speaking into that some more, Adam, what I had realized after leaving the fire service, a lot of people told me I heard a lot of times people saying how they wanted to go travel. When I was in the Marines, right. I heard number of times people saying they wanted to join the Marines, but XYZ happened and they couldn't. Starting a business, there's all these sort of reasons why people don't do it. And what I've kind of boiled this all down to is most people don't know how. A lot of people have visions, they want a better world, but they don't know how they're going to afford to make the leap.
Right.
And what we've done with Abundance Codes is we've solved the problem, the question, the unknown how. How are you going to afford to create your vision? How are you going to afford to pay yourself if you're going to make a leap of faith from your career and transition into what really your soul is calling you forward into? And through our process, we've essentially eliminated all barriers to entry. And we've unlocked this cheat code in the credit system. You need to unlock large amounts of 0% interest business credit. So the last step after fund your vision, that's number 3, is to live your vision, is to live your purpose.
And so what kind of success stories or stories from clients do you have that you could share, someone who's actually gone through these 3 steps?
Yeah, beautiful. One that just came through. Well, we just got a client approved from one bank, 90K, 0% interest funding, 12 months from one bank. So the process we use is known as credit stacking. We're essentially leveraging multiple different banks to get multiple different credit cards as much as you need to get up to the amount that you want. So we got one client, 90K from one bank, and we're stacking up from there. And we have a number of clients that are going for max funding, or we're going to go for as many banks as we can to fund them as much as possible. And we have a proprietary process, and through our credit repair and these sort of things allow us to do it more than what most people can do. But one story I love to share also is Sacred Son's brother. He was struggling to get his product into markets. Last year, when he went to Chase Bank, he got applied for business credit. He got same guy, same business, just a year earlier, and credit score 20 points lower. But he got a $5,100 credit card, which, it's a nice maybe monthly expenses, but you really can't make a difference with $5,100, right? Through our process, everything the same other than 20 points higher in his credit score, which we were able to provide for him. He got an 80K from Chase Bank. So we got one more credit card and stacked it up to 100K. Now he's free to launch his business into the world and the product into the world. And he told us that he really feels like we were able to take him to the next level. Yeah, so we're still. This was just last month when he came through, and he's now developing the product. I believe in October, at the end of October, he's supposed to finish with production, and now it's going out into the world.
And so, I want to say here too, like, who's someone who should not, venture into this? Like I'm saying, you have to come with a plan. You have to come with purpose and mission. This is not something to wing it and to get even more in debt, even with some of the knowledge that you guys have and some of the ways that I've also seen Taylor, man. Like I said, he's been in court clearing tons of credit debt. But who should not do this?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think those that are only looking for their own personal gain should not do this. And those that don't want to take full responsibility for their current situation and their future situation that they're creating, it's really important that they stay away. And I think then the last one would be just those that are like playing small. Because as you talked about, like, now's the time to go all in on your vision. Humanity needs it. And those that want to just get 10K to barely scrape by, those that want to think big are those that should be here.
Yeah. It's good to acknowledge that, because there are those who are like, oh, I'm looking for a way to make a cheap buck now, but not actually get myself in the game, do the work that it actually takes. And, I'm a business owner. I've actually owned multiple businesses as well in my life. And I'm very clear on what it takes. And it's not for everyone. It's like, if you're a dad and you got a solid, job, that maybe it's not your your full on purpose in this life. However, it feeds your family and it brings sustainability. Like, no reason to venture off into Costa Rica like my brother Jesse did. Stay the course and find your purpose in the moments you can on those weekends, because like no one's telling anybody here to jump ship. I want to be clear about that. However, if you are absolutely lit on your vision and what you have to offer as a service to this world, now is the time, like you said, to build the new earth. And in order to build the bridges to the new earth, we have to get our hands dirty. We have to be willing to do the work, to to do the things that so many of us don't even realize come along with what it means to create our own vision, our own business, our own branding. I wear many hats. I get to do a really rad podcast and have conversations with amazing people. And I do all the remedial stuff too that comes along with it. It's just the truth. It is what it is. And it's fucking worth it because of the lifestyle that it's created for myself, for my family, for my boys. I'm going to go pick up my son Holland from school. We're going to go play at the park. And, I get to be engaged in my passion, in my work, and not have to feel like I'm working. And that for me is of the most value. Like the lifestyle, to be in it for the lifestyle and not like some influencer. I'm showing all these pictures of vacations, which by the way, I always thought when I had kids, I would travel. Like I wouldn't travel. It would stop. And like, oh, I got my traveling in when I was young. It's not the case. Because of the love we've poured into Sacred Sons, I travel more now than ever. And my family comes with me for a lot of these events. You know what I'm saying? They came to Mexico at the beginning of the year. They were at Envision Festival with us when Sacred Sons was at Envision. And that part for me was like, I couldn't even see it coming. And those are the moments when you know it's working, is when you're like, or I'll own it, when I had experienced things that came as a result of the passion that I wasn't even expecting. Like being able to bring my whole family to Envision Festival as a result of the work of Sacred Sons. I didn't expect that, when we were hosting free men's circles 5-6 years ago. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
But the passion brings us to a place of ultimate freedom so much sometimes that we get to experience things that we didn't even know were possible.
Exactly.
Yeah. What do you want to say to your brothers, who are fighting the fight? Maybe even I had a firefighter on recently who's actually doing work in holding space for firefighters and for those dealing with the traumas that they are witness to and receive in that line of work. What kind of message do you have for your brothers there? Maybe for your brothers who are still in the military from this side. You're in the civilian side, but you're also, you're a very spiritual person. You've gone on your own kind of walkabouts and journeying. And even looking back at yourself, Jesse, like when you were a young person in the Marine Corps, what would you say to that version of yourself?
Yeah, I think the most important thing that I would want to share with the men and women still on the front lines is that's where we need good people the most. And it's so important to take care of the self within that, because it can be very difficult in a culture that can be really controlling and oppressive itself, in the military at least. And really just old school in the fire service can be really hard to find an identity. But I think it's in those really challenging spaces where we really create a name for ourselves, or really create our individuated self within that experience, and maintain that we are a good person and we're doing what's right. We're doing the best we can. We're going above and beyond. We're serving something larger than ourselves. I think that's what's most important to know.
Yeah. And when we see the statistics, when we see the numbers of servicemen and women who take their own lives, when you think about your friend, What was your brother's name who had the overdose?
Paul Ely.
Yeah, honoring Paul. What do you want to say to those who may be quietly suffering, who may be out there, they haven't had the breadth of experience that you have? What's kind of a message of hope for those men and women?
Yeah. I think one story that comes up for me from Colombia, I was walking down the street in Bogota, and bustling city center, and there was this group of people that were selling little trinkets on the side of the road, and I walked away from that group, but I turned back around and I saw this guy. He was limping. He had like his leg was, he was limping, and his arm was tightened up, and he was spitting a lot when he talked, and he had some sort of developmental disabilities of some kind, but he was really trying to speak English. He said, "Hey, how are you?" And I learned about his story, and just to get right at it, we eventually got to the point that his family, because of his disabilities, left him in the trash as a young boy for dead.
Wow.
And he rebuilt his life, and this man, he had the biggest smile I'd ever seen, and he was just excited to see me and to be able to practice his English in this like moment of passing on this busy corner street. And like, as I left away from that experience, he goes, "Jesse, you are my friend." I said, "Juan, you are my friend too." And it really just opened me up to all the times that I had been really struggling and been clamped up inside of myself, like not willing to go out or smoking weed to numb my experience of life. That getting out into the world, getting out to some event, a Sacred Sons event, going to Colombia, going to a country that you've never been before, I think being of service, volunteering, really changed my life. And I just, through travel, through these new experiences, through popping out of that little shell that I had put myself in, or that a lot of men and women are struggling in right now, popping out of yourself into the unknown to experience life. And I believe that you will be rewarded if you do that. So my invitation to all these men and women who are struggling is to get out and see something different.
Yeah. And if, for many, that's like a calling. And for some, I imagine people are like, fuck, I'm not even resourced enough to be able to do that. I don't know how to do that. Right. That's what you're saying. Like, some people just don't even know how to do that. I would say, come back to random acts of kindness, like in those small ways. Be of service in the smallest ways with every person that you interact with. Like, so many people right now are hurting, and so many people can use the kindness of a stranger. It's something that we should all keep out in front and to strive for, because you never know, like how you can make someone's day. Just like this brother Juan with that big smile. This is like an experience that you carry with you, that makes you who you are, that gives you character, and you can be that for someone else. Like, right now, there's someone out there who needs your medicine, who needs your smile, who needs, just that random act of kindness can shift their whole day, potentially shift their whole life. It's worth a shot. It's like, if you don't know where to start, you don't know what that you can do, just be kind. Open a door, carry the groceries, whatever you got to do, whatever we got to do. It's time for that. It's time for that. And Sacred Sons, if you're hearing this, we step in. We step in when the world steps out, when people are checked out, when they're on their phones, when they're engulfed in the chaos. We bring the order. We step in the small ways, because because how we do anything is how we do everything. And it's those small ways, those small actions that create the big actions, that create those big waves. So that's what we're here to do. Jesse, with that, is there any final message, any words of inspiration, any prayer for those out there, whether they're thriving and shining, whether they're struggling? What would you like to leave with the brothers and sisters who are listening?
One thing that had come into my awareness recently is the major cycles that are playing out in the world's history. Every 250 years, there's a changing of the world order. There's about 250 years ago, we had the American Revolution. 250 years before that, we had the Protestant Reformation. Every 80 to 100 years, there's a big shift that changes how society operates. There's an 80-year financial revolution cycle and a 50-year technological revolution cycle. Adam, all of these cycles are converging on us here now.
Yeah.
I've been studying my human design. Human design states that there's the end of an era in 2027.
Yeah.
That'll be the 250th anniversary from 1776. So the stars are aligning, all the timelines are converging, and they're calling us to step into a greater embodiment of clarity of purpose, of direction, of service, of compassion and kindness. So my invitation to all the men and women listening to this is to step into that arena and get ready to stand in your power and own your purpose on this earth in this moment.
Step in, own your purpose. These are all things that we focus on at Sacred Sons. These are all things that we should collectively be pointed towards. And again, I love your messaging. It's not about this selfishness, but it's about the greater good. It's about the greater impact that we can have when we are all fully resourced. Thank you for your service, my brother. Thank you for your service in all the ways, and in even the way that you're bringing freedom to your brothers and sisters now through their finances, through some of the hardest conversations. Truly, I see it. I see it that way. I feel it. And yeah, man, acknowledge you and honor you. As I see you're always one who's fighting for humanity, man.
Thank you.
Yeah. And again, Taylor Carver, we love you. Thanks for fighting the good fight out there, my brother. Abundance Codes. Where can they find Abundance Codes?
Yeah, the best place right now would be on my Instagram, action_Jesse. We host a masterclass every month. The next one will be on Thursday, the 9th of November. So if you're listening to that before then, check out the link. It's in my Instagram bio, or maybe you can put it in the show notes, Adam. Otherwise, abundancecodes.org. That's the best way to find us. But hit me up on Instagram if you have any questions. I'm happy to chat about these things.
Hit them at abundancecodes.org. With that, Jesse Simpson, Abundance Codes, Adam Jackson, Sacred Sons. We're out, family. Peace.